Hey, welcome to the Real Family Business Podcast. I'm Keith Lane, Chief Strategy and Talent Officer here at Rollo Insurance Group, joined to my left, your right, by the CEO of Rollo Insurance, Jason Rollo. Immediately to my right, COO of Rollo Insurance Group, Colonel Cody Dameron. And on the far right, Agency President Jackson Rollo. So guys, it's great to be here with you today. Anxious for today's topic. I would like to talk a little bit about bigger isn't always better in the realm of career development. We're a family business. We're a small business. We're all painfully aware of how much small businesses are dealing or engaged in what was often called the war for talent.
I'm just glad you said career development, because bigger is not always better. It does not apply to ice cream, pretzels, A&M football. So you did qualify that.
Well,
career development. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Well, hey, I know you guys got a lot to say, so I don't want to talk. I want to hear what you've got to say. First topic, let me just throw this out there and let's kick this around a little bit. I think there's a conventional wisdom. I was at a graduation ceremony last year. My wife teaches at a university setting, and the university president was boasting about the fact that the average college graduate will change careers 7 times over the course of their career. And they were talking about this like it was a badge of honor. I just sat there and I just glazed over. My mind wandered, and so there's obviously conventional wisdom in the modern professional sector about what a career should look like. What do y'all think that is?
Okay, number one, you said modern, because that is not the way it was years ago.
Yep.
Years ago, people would work for a company, they were loyal, and now, again, you see that jump around strategy, which sometimes may work some, but again, it doesn't have to be that way. And I would just draw upon conventional wisdom. And so you look at you think about stable marriages. You think about a coach that's been somewhere a long time and has had a great level of success. So I would fight that idea from the beginning that somehow is better to just move around. I'm not saying a person can never move. There's not a chance to do that, but that doesn't make any sense to me on the surface.
A couple of things I have on this too. I think that it is definitely tied to this new age way of like, what I want it right now, right? And therefore, I'm just going to change every time I can to get what I want right now.
College football, is it better now with the transfer portal? I don't think so.
There's no commitment to things long term, which actually makes it very valuable. So I do think it's an asset of a family business long term is when you can find those loyal people, reward them. But the way I'm looking at it, I heard a stat the other day. I want to say it was something along the lines of over 50% of millionaires in the United States have worked at one company. Meaning that they've literally stuck with the same company. 50% of them have done that. The other stat that I was thinking of, or idea, was the new Nike CEO. Have y'all seen any of this that's come out? The new Nike CEO has worked at Nike for 31 years, started as an intern, and is now the CEO of Nike. Wow. Okay?
It's cool.
You see people being rewarded for sticking around a company. And I think when you look at like that wisdom per se, I think it's appealing to a modern audience who wants things that are not realistic when it comes to hard work and building something. And in a family business, you're building. You need workers who are willing to build with you. There's no 3-day work week hybrid schedule for people who are building something.
But isn't it also true? Could you tell me, because again, you've climbed the ranks in the U.S. Armed Forces. You've seen all kinds of talent going all kinds of different places. It seems like most people go to at 18 is where you go into college. At 19 is what are you majoring in. At 21 is what are you going to do when you're 40. And it starts early in life, but then you fast forward and you've got people who have midlife crises and they're in a job that they've got a great lifestyle, but they're miserable with what they do. I mean, that's the conventional wisdom creates these circumstances, right? I mean, it's why Monster and Indeed and all these job sites are booming businesses, because there's a lot of people who are unsatisfied.
Yep.
But in your opinion, what is it in conventional wisdom that there may be an element of truth, and what is it in conventional wisdom that's just flat wrong?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the loyalty piece is obviously the overarching concept of loyalty to an organization, say Rollo Insurance. If someone brings you in as an intern, it's absolutely okay for you to then maybe one day become an account manager, maybe one day go into sales, maybe one day end up in a director of something, and maybe potentially one day on the executive team. So there's job changes in that regard, but it's within the world of I'm still loyal to this organization. I'm growing. And so it kind of goes back to the intent of it is the intent of changing roles to actually get more experience and to understand things better, and it's just a natural progression of things? Or is it, I just don't care about this organization, I'm leaving? And military side of the house, like I said, changing jobs 1 to 3 years, that's just forced upon you. I'm still loyal to the U.S. Army. I'm just forced to change. And so the concept there is we want the most adaptable leader we can get. So we're going to throw them in as many possible roles that we can get them in.
So let me ask you a question that maybe people who are listening or watching wouldn't even know. So coming out of the Army after 27 years as an officer, you had job offers lined up everywhere. Now, notwithstanding the fact that you had a close friendship with Jason, you could have gone anywhere, yet you're here.
Yeah.
What were the things that drove you into the small business environment?
Absolutely, the value system. It was, Jason just brought it up. It's integrity. It's the loyalty. I don't have to worry about one day craziness coming into this organization. I don't have to worry about one day Jason going, you know what, I drank the wrong coffee this morning, you're fired. That's just not going to happen, even though he drinks the wrong coffee all the time. But
And he overcooks his meat. His steak
and he
is
burns
like a
steak
briquette.
like crazy.
It's a shame.
It's disgraceful.
Yeah.
But
It is.
Yeah, but I think when you think about like the loyalty aspect of that, here's what people are not thinking about. Look, I'm 27, okay? I don't really have too much wisdom in this, and I have not seen what y'all have seen in terms of years of people building experience places. But I've done enough research and study to know this. You know what a company does when they start losing money, when the economy goes down? They fire the people who've been there the least amount of time, i.e. the job hoppers, and the people who are overpaid and underperforming, i.e. the people who are overpaid for a job that they should not be working in. That's the first two people to get cut off. So they're not thinking long term, like, what can I do to build up? They're literally just jumping from job to job. What does it pay? Do I get exactly what I want? Here's the thing. There's beautiful times in life where you don't get what you want. That's why I love working with Jason, because there's times I don't get what I want. Isn't that right?
Definitely. And so,
But it's good for you. It builds character, and people nowadays back away from these challenges. And I think as a family business, where you can build changes, you're trying to look for the talent that does not fit conventional wisdom.
you know, I want you to think about this. So we live in a microwave society, if you will, right? They want it quick. They want it yesterday. They want it in 30 seconds.
Yep.
So that's been ingrained into people. And so instead of working into various positions and taking the time to do that, they get frustrated and they jump around. But also, if you're in an environment where you can actually have those discussions and see that path forward because you trust your supervisors and then work into those positions, that should be there if it's done correctly. But also, can I just say this? Where's contentment? I mean, maybe you have a career or a job, you're in a certain position, and you like it.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
With going and doing that for 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 years. Some of the happiest people that have ever lived in this country were involved in businesses where they did that for many years and or decades. You mentioned earlier a stat. I dare you to go read the book, The Millionaire Next Door, The Millionaire Mind, and study those people and the happiness of their marriages to one spouse for decades and decades and so forth. There wasn't chaos. There was stability. And all of that comes into play in what we're talking about.
But that's the point I'm trying to make, right? When we're talking to this group, these family businesses trying to do it the right way, the one thing I think that we have gotten right the last couple of years as we've grown is we're not looking for the same person that these big companies are looking for.
No.
They don't fit Rollo Insurance. We say it all the time, God, family, country. If that probably means something to you, you're probably going to like working at Rollo Insurance. If it doesn't, we don't need you here. There's plenty of companies, and that's totally fine that you go work for one of them. We want people who understand the beauty of what we have to offer as a family business, and it's not going to be that conventional wisdom type thinking. That's why we do hire some younger people, but they're usually the younger people who act very old because they have this kind of a mindset.
And we're talking about something as simple as smiling at people or caring about them or how can I help you? It is
integrity and decency. The things we've been
decency.
talking about.
I like that word.
Well, so I think this is where small businesses or family-owned businesses often really they get close, but they can't quite connect the dots on know what it is that you really offer. I mean, I look at what you've built over 25 years.
I would say we, but I understand.
Well, I mean,
Right.
it absolutely is we. But I'm just saying, you as the founder of this whole thing, the vision started with you, the spark started with you, and your bride.
Right.
Know what you offer. You've got a vision. You know what you offer. But so that's where small businesses need to look. How they need to look at the workforce. But people in the workforce who are unsatisfied, who don't want to be one of that changed a career 7 times statistic.
Yes.
You got to know. What is it that you really want?
But right, which goes back again to a relationship where you can say, what do you want? and they may not know.
Well,
But if you have times that you meet with them, you talk with them, and you can help them become what they should be within that organization, everybody wins. Why can't it be a win-win?
Well, shameless plug for my LinkedIn, but anybody who follows me on LinkedIn, I write about alignment before assignment all the time. I had a mentor years ago when I lived in Arizona who was talking about alignment before assignment in terms of career development, and said, look, figure out what you want, figure out what you value. And I think that's the priceless advice or the wisdom that enough people, far too few people actually get at an early enough stage in life. The good news is that it's never too late. I think the older you get, the more responsibility. You've got a mortgage, you've got a family, you've got responsibilities. Is it harder to make major changes to try to get into the small business vector? Yeah, it is. But is it still doable? Absolutely. The four of us have seen people do it. What are you going to say?
I was going to say two things. Is one, as a family business leader, there are two things you absolutely need to work on when it comes to bringing in new people, and that's managing expectations. Make sure they know what the expectations should be for them as far as career path, roles, things like that, what potentially could be there. And then mentorship. It's if you bring a guy in and okay, hey, the possibility is there, he's going to move up in this organization, I'm going to mentor him or her in that. I'm going to communicate with them of what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and I'm taking that role as a leader in my family business to make sure those two things are done well.
So to make a play on that or to talk about that for a moment, it might be, again, goes back to what's important to them. Is it less hours because I want more time with my young children? Is it more money? Is it flexibility? Is it perks? And so if you understand what they're wanting to do, it's educational attainment within the system of whatever we're doing. And so again, that goes back again to relationships. Yep. And I think you can get all of that in a company that you spend more time with, if it's a good company, and it should be with the way people act, than you could in jumping around, because how are you going to know someone if you don't have time to get to know them?
Well, that's a good point. And let me personally say this. You talk about from a small business perspective, from a family business perspective, you ask, what is it that you offer? At Rollo Insurance, we have the Rollo rules, which we'll get into at a later time. But my favorite two Rollo rules, Rollo rule number 1, God is good, you should be too. My second favorite one, do right, period. And that's in both of those Rollo rules, in my opinion, speak to the value proposition that our organization offers in establishing clarity with our priorities, that a lot of organizations wouldn't entertain. How do you think that affects this conversation with conventional wisdom and careers and how people look at this?
I just think that when we're thinking about bigger is not always better in the family, like what do you have as a family business that is going to give you an advantage in career development? Well, number one, we don't have to hire 300 people to be successful, right? We're looking for like one person to fit a job. So you're looking for a smaller pool of candidates because you're only trying to fill maybe one position, and you're looking for the people who are thinking about the world and what they want a little bit differently. The other thing I would say is it's a little easier for us to define what we're looking for in those roles, because we're not afraid of, putting our value systems out there. I think for us, I know we've grown crazy over the last 5 years. I mean, I think we're over 200 members on our team now. What that means is we've added, since I've been here, over about 150. And that means we found 150 other people who fit within our value system. And that's been what's made us successful, because if we were, just recruiting everybody, it wouldn't be about the values, but about the pay and the benefits and like the traditional wisdom of come here and then leave. We don't care about that. No, when people come here, we love you to retire here because you love working and building with us.
And if you have a person who has a mindset of what's best for me next, no matter what, and they work for 5 or 6, 7 different companies, hey, I wish them all the best. Please do not come to work here. No. Okay, because that is not what we're looking for. And maybe people find success with that, and some probably do, and that's okay. Yep. But I think there's other people, and we've seen this too, both with young and with old, to where that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for a family, and that's what we're talking about, family business. And there's something beautiful about stability. And maybe you don't grow as quick, maybe you don't make as much money, but I will say this, I've also found that's not always true, because you can make good money and you can advance quickly if you're good and we know what you want and you work hard. I think all of that is there.
Let me ask you a question. How do you think that perspective changes over time? just for people in general.
You mean, what do you mean, for the worker?
Yeah, for the worker or for the business owner. Either way, when you're looking at growing, you're looking at how to put yourself out there in terms of what you're building, or how to put yourself out there in terms of the career that you're seeking. How do you think those perspectives?
I'll take it,
Please.
Because being the guy who got out of school 5 years ago,
Yeah.
when I was going to school, like I said on an earlier episode, like I did not think family business, small business was like where I wanted to be.
Because the machine was pushing you that other direction? Or
Yeah, I mean,
that
because the society, right? Like being successful was going to Stanford, working at Apple,
That's
and being
the conventional
a top attorney
wisdom.
and being competitive, right? Being the best. I'm competitive.
Right.
But I think whenever I got into this side of the business, what I learned was there are so many cool things we get to do here. I would have never had. I'm 27 years old. I took over as president of Rollo Insurance at 25, right? I don't know. That's crazy for him to make that decision, first of all. Second of all, I think that I would have never had an opportunity. I'd have been a law school student at 25 still, right? You don't realize the cool things you get to do when you're willing to take chances on small businesses and then be loyal to them for a very, very long period of time. I think that's what nobody talks about. They don't talk about the opportunities with a family business. How many family businesses you know where the second generation doesn't come in, which is totally fine, and it just turns into somebody else's family business? That's just as cool, right? Mm-hmm. Where someone else comes in and they are family, like they work beside this person for 20 years, and then they take it over instead of maybe a kid because they didn't want to. That is awesome, but that doesn't happen everywhere else. That's what family business has to offer.
So let me repackage that question, what he said. Phrase it in the terms of risk. The conventional wisdom is the low risk path. You know, people starting out early in career, they go to a good college, get a good degree, get a good job, get a white house with a white picket fence. Okay, versus entrepreneurship, it ain't that. I mean,
I'll give you a perfect situation. If you think about COVID. Okay, if you work for a big company and they get in a bind, let me just tell you something. When it comes to, I was thinking earlier about their profit margins, their quarterly estimates, things like that. You let them not hit those numbers a few quarters. I don't care what they say, who they are. You are a number. Yep. You're a number. But if you're part of a family and a family business, you're not a number. I have often said of some of the people who worked with me for many years, I would fire me before I fire you. Yep. And that goes back to a commitment level. And I don't, maybe some family businesses don't understand this, but I know we do. It is a commitment to people that are part of this and who've bought fully in. I mean, as deep as any blood tie there is.
Yeah. Well, and how
you know that,
but how fun is that, right?
Oh, so fun.
And that is what you have to get better at in your family business. You have to get better at presenting this in that way. Don't try to recruit the same way the big guys recruit. You'll never have a chance of winning. That's what, Keith, you do so well. I don't know how you do it. We always joke with this. Like, Keith will not tell us how he does what he does. He's like a wizard. He just comes out with like brand new people that fit exactly the mold of what we're trying to recruit.
I'm more. My questions are: how do they interpret what he's saying when he goes to these big words?
Look, they're like in a trance when they come in here. but the reality is this:
Google Translator.
Keith knows how to present a family business, and for people to hear that's different. That how many people have come in here and said, I got a lot of DMs in my LinkedIn inbox about we're going to work for somewhere else. What Keith said was different. That's the only reason I replied. Yeah. You have to do it differently than everyone else or you'll never have a chance.
But no, and I would say this, but you can't just do it differently. You have to be different from the core. Yeah. Because if you don't believe what we're saying,
that's a fact.
If you don't believe what we're saying about people,
if you're not authentic, people will sniff that out a mile
there's
away.
So many wonderful family businesses, but the best ones, you have people who, again, they're people of integrity. They take care of the folks that work for them. They treat them fairly. They treat them equally. And it's a beautiful situation. But then there's others that, honestly, they might as well be corporate because they act like corporate.
Well, see, and that's the thing that I think small business owners have to understand is, I said earlier, know what you offer. But I think maybe the better way of saying it is know the value of what you offer and figure out how to take that out to a job marketplace, a career marketplace, where there's a lot of people who, like I said earlier, they would like to pursue something closer to what you're doing, but they don't know where to start, where to look, how to find that group of people. How do you find where do you start?
Straight talk is where you start. And so I think I go back to, again, this doesn't mean there's always, roses and so forth, sunshine and roses. I mean, it's direct talk. I go back to many years ago when I was involved in selling a lot, and my wife was doing the books, and I'll never forget one time, it was on a Friday, and I'd lost a big account, even though they thanked me for the business, but they had to move it, and then paid a bunch of taxes. And so we lost a lot of money on that particular day. Going to my wife, she's amazing. If you've ever seen Remember the Titans, if that little blonde-headed girl were to grow up, that's pretty much who I married. And so her dad was a football coach anyway. And so so she's sitting there, she's paying bills and topping, and I'm kind of giving the woes. And so she just looks over at me and she goes, if you're a better salesman, you wouldn't have lost it. Goes right back to paying the bills. And so, this year we 30 years of marriage, and we love each other deeply. But it goes back to straight talk. We've talked many things about trust, integrity, knowing what you're good at. I mean, there's a reason she's controlled the money all these years and I haven't, because she's better with it than me. And so I think all of that comes into play with what we're talking about. Bigger is not always better if you know who you are and you talk to people and help them develop into what they can be, if they fit who you are as a company and they fit your culture.
I would like to add something to this, because I think that in the next 20 years, one of the most important things in career development is going to be commitment. Because both directions, you as a business,
Two-way street.
I'm going to start the other way. The employee committing to your business, right? Because that is an important thing. Don't just bounce around all the time. We're looking for people who want to be here. But then committing back the other way. Like I love what Dad said a while ago. Hey, I would have fired me before I fired other people, right? It's just, there's things that you can do as a family business to prove these things that will separate you so much in the next 20 years. When everybody's all about, hey, jump around 7 times and praising it, at some point it's going to come full circle and people are going to be like, wow, this company has an average, employee of 20 years. That's fantastic, right? That is going to be applauded again. Do the work right now to be successful whenever that switches back to this direction.
And if you want that to happen, though, you have to take care of those people on the journey, and both listening to them, seeing what they want to do, developing them. And I'll say this much, we've gotten better at that. But if the people that are committed, you've seen them grow like crazy in even their opportunities and learning and money and so forth. But if someone comes in and they're kind of like not committed, why would you be committed to them? That really means they shouldn't be there anyway. Mm-hmm. But if people are loyal and committed,
but it's going to be
help
different.
Yeah.
If you're willing to commit, it will be very, very different.
If you're in the right company and you commit, I guarantee you they're going to love that and help you develop.
And the interesting thing is, right, to your point earlier, there are some people who desire careers where they're jumping around. Those people are out there, but there's just as many who would like to not be in that path.
I'm glad somebody runs the big companies.
I'm glad somebody's willing to move every 2-3 years in the Army. I mean,
yeah,
you need those people.
Hey, listen, I mean, look, big companies have their place. We're just simply saying we're a big believer in family business. And family business can get fairly large, but I think that they're not the same.
Yep, I agree.
Loyalty is a rare thing this day and age, but there are organizations that have it, and the ones that have it, they've got something that is a defining characteristic. So, Cody, just one last group of a couple hardcore questions here. Just what are based on your career, the totality of your experience and your perspective, what's your single greatest professional takeaway with respect to business owners and job seekers at this stage of life for yourself? Looking back, what you've experienced, where you've been, and where you are. Looking back, what would you tell people who are listening?
I've already said it. Manage expectations, both ways.
Okay.
It's if I'm coming in looking for a position, I need to help you understand. Like coming to Jason, I need to help you understand and manage your expectations of what I'm thinking and what I'm trying to do. And you mentioned that before. Working with people where they are, I would give up money every single day of the year at this point in my life to be able to be with my family, to spend the evenings with my family, the weekends with my family, to take vacations with my family. 20 years ago, I'd work 80 hours a day. I didn't care. I was just trying to get to a place in life. Now, I'd eat beans and rice the rest of my life to have time with my family. So managing those expectations both ways as a family business owner and somebody coming into that, I think is the key.
Jason, what would you say?
I'll go last.
Okay.
How did I know that was coming?
The old redirect.
He always goes last.
Redirect.
He always goes last. I think I'm going to stick with what I said earlier. I think that you have to commit to your people and prove it. I'll use you as an example because I'm big on spending time with family. Being young, I'm in that stage where I still work like crazy, but I plan it around my family time. Like every day I'm going home to spend time with my daughter and my son, and then I'll open up the laptop back at night to get my hours in, because I want to spend the time with them. So I'm pushing you guys on it too all the time, right? Hey, go spend time with your family. And I know, Keith, you went on vacation like 2 months ago, and I called him. He didn't answer. I was like, awesome. I texted him. I said, congratulations, you passed. Go enjoy a week with your family on vacation. 30 minutes later, he called me. Hey, man, I didn't see your call. What's going on? I said, well, ignore the text because you failed. But
I was driving.
But like, to me, that's important, right? Like you built a family business. I'm now part of that. I want to perpetuate that to where people can enjoy their families. And so to me, that is a way we can demonstrate our care for our people, for them spending time with their families. I think every business has to find the thing they're willing to sacrifice on and give that back to the employee. And over time, that builds loyalty that will not be broken.
Well, and I'll make a play on that. I mean, we're coming from a different generation, because I'm definitely going to text you back, or I figure you would text me. But here's one thing I would say. I've never looked at as that as work. I mean, if I'm somewhere on vacation, and I mean, it's not work to me to send a text, because you're my friend anyway.
That's
right?
right.
I mean, now it's different if you're trying to maybe go work 2 hours and I'm like doing something. Like, come on, Keith, seriously? Okay, but that's not going to happen. Right. But I would say one of the big things is, the first thing would be openness and trust, loyalty. And what I mean by that is, let them know who you are. Tell them what you want. This goes back to kind of what you said. And then if there's that rapport with each other and you truly trust each other, work ethic's the next one. Because if you have work ethic and they trust you, I'm telling you, good things are going to happen. If you're working too much, take a vacation. You're not working enough, they'll say, I mean, that's not going to happen because you work all the time. It's your work ethic. But it's the old-fashioned values of integrity, trust, care, work ethic. I mean, all those things still come into play, but I do think they can be balanced. I mean, you look at our organization, we're the opposite, man. We have to make people sometimes, like, what are you doing? Go take a vacation. Like Jackson say, don't answer the phone because you work hard all the time anyway. You need a break. Yeah. And I mean, that's maybe the opposite of what many companies have to deal with. It's trying to get them to work harder. With us, it's like, no, seriously, take a break. Get someone to help you where you can take a break.
Well, there's so much more in small business, small family-owned business, than meets the eye. And best thing we can tell anybody is look beneath the surface, keep digging. And this is just our first of many conversations on career development. So guys, thank you. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.